And welcome inside the Backstage Pass. It is a brand new week of shows. And of course, the countdown is on tomorrow. The calendar flips over to March the 1st, as we're about 10 or 12 days out now from being in Nashville, Tennessee at the Omni Hotel, March 13 to 15, CRS Country Radio Seminar. We've got a slew of interviews booked for you there. You won't want to miss it. We'll Facebook Live everything out there, presented by our friends over at Bangtail Whiskey. Check them out at bangtail.com. And of course, our friends over there at easyliquor.com. Do some online shopping. Of course, our friends over at Honky Tonk Texas, and of course, Gentle Ben Spirits out there. The vodka, the gin, the bourbon is fantastic out there too. And again, another show. There's a great week of shows coming up this week here on the Backstage Pass. We're live on the YouTube channel, and of course, the Sports Guys podcast.com. We get to hang out with the best in music, acting, entertainment, sports. We just do it all out there. And he's one of the best out there. He's got a new album called American Storyteller. And, boy, he does tell a story from top to bottom on it. Tommy C. Thomas Howell joins us here on the program. Tommy, how you doing, brother?
Excellent. Thanks for having us.
Man, we appreciate you. And you got, like I said, your group of friends there, of course. You're a harmonica player, and it's good to have
Here's a portion of my band that came to help us out later, because we're going to play a song for you if
sure.
But this is Sweepy Walker, my harmonica player. This is Zachariah Malachi, who is our guitarist, and they're both just really good friends of mine, and we just sure appreciate y'all letting us be here with you. So thank you,
man. We appreciate it. Well, I'm gonna start, man, with this new album. You guys have released a lot of the stuff off of it, leading into the week, which came out there February 3rd, so about 20, 25 days ago or so. Talk about this, because, like I said, the love of music, and now to again, still in the acting scene, very well known, and a lot of different things you've done throughout your career. But now to put out a full-length album with some really great songs on there, just kind of talk about, I guess, let's say the transition, more or less, but the love of music now and putting out a Tommy Howell record.
Well, it's interesting. This all started just a couple of years ago. I came from a musicalist home, and I've never played an instrument ever. But I grew up in a rural background. My father rode bulls professionally for 10 years, and he became a stuntman after that. And that's not an unusual thing, because back then all the cowboys were stuntmen, and Westerns were, when things were going down, they hired cowboys, right? So I got into the business that way. But growing up in a rural atmosphere, for me, and having a father who basically stared at death for a living his whole life, there was no music, there was no art around, and I had a hunch, I had an idea for a movie that I wanted to do, which is kind of an homage to a Tender Mercies type of a film about an old cowboy that records an album, and just by sheer luck, it blows up, and he really doesn't have anything to do with fame. He just was, killing time, and kind of like maybe like what Springsteen did with Nebraska, just a 4-track and a guitar, and it got real popular. And for me, the cowboying part of it, I grew up roping and riding, and that was what I wanted to do as a kid. I spent my whole childhood taking that very seriously. 1979, 1980, 1981, I was California State all-around champion, and for the age of 18 and under, and I was ready to compete professionally and probably do stunts. That's what I was planning on falling back on. And slowly but surely, I was introduced to a couple of directors at a young age when I was hanging around on the set with my father. And my dad came and picked me up at school one day and said we were going to go meet a guy named Steven Spielberg. And I didn't really know who that was. And I was, just rodeoing hard on weekends and working on getting better and riding bulls and team roping. And so when he picked me up, he handed me a pack of Marlboros, and he said, here's a book of matches. You got about half an hour to figure out how to light that thing. And we drove on into the meeting, and we walked in, and there was about 5 or 6 guys that all looked like John Stamos. Man, they were beautiful blue eyes, and their feathered back, dark hair. And I just looked at Daddy and said, "Man, we got to get out of here because there ain't no way I'm getting this thing."
Mm-hmm.
And Daddy, he just waited, and he said, "No, you're gonna wait your turn." And they all went out one by one, and finally, I was the last one to go. So I go into this room, and there's Steven Spielberg. And he's flanked by Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall, the producers of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the casting people, Marcy Learoff, and everybody from the studio were there, and bright lights. And I sat down, and they started asking me questions, and they liked that I came from a stunt background, and they asked me if I could ride the bike a little bit, and that impressed him because he didn't want to have to cut away all the time from the actors. He wanted somebody to ride the bike a little bit. And apparently, they had somebody they were interested in, but he was a Mormon kid, and his mama wouldn't let him smoke a cigarette. And so they bring up the cigarette issue, and they said, "Well, how do you feel about the cigarettes?" Of course, I fished out this crumpled pack of Marlboros and stuffed a broken cigarette in my mouth that did a 90-degree turn and struck the mat 2 or 3 times, and they all just shook their head and said, "You got the part, kid." So that 2 things. First of all, lucky as hell, but more importantly, that's just how shrewd my daddy was. He was a street smart cowboy, and was always one step ahead of everybody. And it's because of him I started working. And it wasn't very long after that movie, I started auditioning for the role of Ponyboy in The Outsiders for Francis Coppola, and the luck continued there, and we were blessed and booked that role. And all I wanted to do was collect more money to buy a better horse to become, a better roper. I really anticipated turning into a lifetime. And here we are.
Talk about, I want to extrapolate a little bit on that too, because Ponyboy Curtis, of course, that just great part you had for The Outsiders too back in '83. Huge fan of your work there too. I always say that, characters are portrayed in many different forms out there when it comes to music or just in acting. Somebody can always feel something through a song. What did you take from that character, I guess, that kind of made you kind of the man you are today?
From Ponyboy?
From Ponyboy.
Well, I think if we all can respect that part of ourselves, that artistic part of ourselves, that sensitive side of ourselves, that side that can stop and recognize a sunset, or can read a poem and not feel like less of a man, maybe even more of a man, because we're now operating on all cylinders. We're a full round character that feels pain and love and fear and anger and has feminine qualities and masculine qualities, and that's what makes a great human being, right? So I feel that's what people, when they read the book or when they see the film, that's one of the things that sort of subconsciously they really connect to. Because do you know how many extremely tough dudes, like gang member dudes, that are covered in tattoos that have "Stay Gold" tatted on their knuckles? So many. And there's, the irony there isn't lost on me. I think that's the imbalance, and that's what that part of them really can identify with. Because here's this pack of greasers, parentless, hustling, striving to stick together, fighting to stick together against all odds, stopping to smell the roses, so to speak, and recognize the sunset, and recognize that even on the other side of the tracks, we have pain, right? We're not exempt of pain on the other side of the tracks, and the grass is not always greener, right? It's just so there's a character for everybody in that particular film. And for me personally, I had a lot of those qualities growing up, and I was raised by wolves, man. I mean, my being raised by rodeo cowboys in particular, rodeo cowboys, they're just a step above pirates, let's be honest. um, it's not a very wholesome environment for a single parent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really where you want to be bringing up a kid. I learned how to count from, playing cards from guys playing poker. And I learned how to read from, comics from the newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great childhood, and I'd like to write a book about it one day, because being raised by, my father was a single parent and a professional bull rider. So, imagine showing up and saying, "Hey, would you mind holding my son for a second? I got to go ride a bull." And that's where I draw a lot of my work from
Mm-hmm.
as a songwriter, to be honest with you. And one of the songs that we're going to play for you today is a song that I wrote for my father, and it's called Ride. And it's sort of, it's a reflection on how I feel about my father. My father was a larger than life character for me,
Mm-hmm.
bull rider, and he became a stunt man. And he was young when he had me. He was only 19. So my father and I are still close in age.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of my best friends. And he gave up a lot to be able to raise me. I mean, he could have punted me to the curb real quick. And now that I have kids of my own, I have so much respect for him in terms of not doing that,
Mm-hmm.
being a young man and stepping up and handling the responsibilities of raising a child. And it wasn't easy, but it was the responsible thing to do. And
Yeah.
I have much respect and love for him for that. And so, he's the reason I got into the business. And he's always, like I said, he's always been one step ahead. He's been a real good sort of counsel for me. Like he, since he was in the business his whole life, he's seen everything. So
Mm-hmm.
when I ever asked him for advice, it's sage advice. It's something that comes from experience with him. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not fortune cookie advice. It's something that comes from, life experience. So we have a lot in common, my dad and I.
Mm-hmm.
We're both cowboys, and we're both in the same business, and we've both seen a lot of crap, and we're both very grateful and to be doing what we do. So we relate on a lot of things. And
Mm-hmm.
I trust my father tremendously. The music thing's brand new for him. And like I said, I come from a music background. There was no music in my home. And in fact, I was probably 8 or 9 years old before I even found out music was on the damn radio. My dad played news. That was it, not even sports, man.
Yeah.
So it was a definite departure when we stepped into the land of music. And that, again, like I said, all started from this idea of wanting to make a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I ordered a guitar when COVID started, just to figure out a couple of chords. Maybe I could fake my way through a few scenes. And lo and behold, COVID just kind of never ended. And I never put this guitar down. And I really got a good solid 18-month break to focus on myself. And I was really able to invest in that time instead of hanging around and drinking all day. I learned the guitar, and I started writing songs, and I discovered that the 40 years I had in Hollywood telling stories was training. It was a 2-hour format that I was accustomed to. But once I understood that the 2-minute format was very similar, I just had a different set of rules to play with. I could make the adjustment, and I started understanding the puzzle a little bit and applying my experience that I had in Hollywood, working with great writers and great storytellers and other actors, and really understanding a role when I write a song, or a role when I sing a song, and my role as a whole as a storyteller. And that's something that I don't really know. It's sort of a dying art. And it's sad because I think devices are killing that. It's funny. It's, even though they supply so much more, we can pull a movie out of our pocket now and watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The art of communication, the art of talking, the art of exchanging stories Well, a lot of that it comes with patience. Like we just don't have it anymore. Nobody wants to sit and wait
True.
and wait for an answer. Everybody wants it right now, and
Yeah.
that's ruined communication.
Mhm.
And that's why movies will be extinct eventually, because nobody wants to watch a movie for an hour and a half. My kids don't. They don't want to watch a movie for an hour and a half. They'd rather hop on TikTok or YouTube and zap through and scroll. And they don't need a beginning and a middle and an end. They just need like a blast of something different for right now, while they're doing homework, while they got the TV on, while the radio is playing, while they're playing a video game. And they can do it all. I can't.
Mhm.
I got to focus on one of those things, but every single one of my kids can do 8 of those things at the same time and know exactly what's going on. So it's a different world, you know. As a parent,
Mhm.
it make me crazy, but now it's a real exercise in patience across the board, which we don't have.
Mhm.
That's why my show is a little bit of a throwback to old times. You know, it's a time
Mhm.
to come in collectively and take a breath. And I'm going to sing you a song, but I'm also going to tell you about Hollywood. I'm going to tell you about Hollywood today, because I'm current and I work all the time now. And I'm going to tell you about Hollywood yesterday, because I was a part of it. And I did films with Elizabeth Taylor and Anne Margaret and Dennis Hopper and Harry Dean Stanton and Roddy McDowell. And I have something of value that people have embraced that I didn't understand when I started doing this. I didn't
Mhm.
realize, you know, it'd be like, it's like anybody, you know, and I, of course, you know, no offense, and I don't know your background, but most of us, if I said, hey man, you need to write a book, tell us about your life, you're like, what? Shut the hell up. It's just, and you know, whatever you do. But that's how I feel too.
Mhm.
I don't sit back and wake up every day and go, I'm a badass. I was in ET. You know, I mean, I pick up the same dog crap that y'all pick up. You know, I got to take out the same trash can that y'all pick up. Crap. I do it myself. So the point is, I don't feel like you can be a grounded, authentic person
Mhm.
and write songs that people can relate to, but remove yourself from life and feel like you're better than that stuff we just talked about. So it
Yeah.
all works together. And us taking a moment in a big room together
Mhm.
and sharing these bits and pieces, I found to be invigorating, and people leave happy. And it's been a lot of fun. It's like it's been a little treasure chest that I've discovered that um, you know, to some degree, I wish I would have started doing this a long time ago, but I don't think I could have done it like I'm doing it now.
Mhm.
I feel now I have something to offer everybody. And you
Yeah.
don't have to like country music or Americana music or whatever it is you want to call it, to like our stuff. Um, it, you know, a good time's a good time. So
Mhm.
that's what we provide. And at our shows, after our shows, we hug it out with everybody. We take pictures, we sign things, and you know, the whole show's interactive, and we let people ask questions, you know, and
Yeah.
that is what provides the difference to each show. And the element is that sort of the element of surprise is you don't want to eliminate that. That keeps it fresh.
Mhm. Yeah, and this album's got a little bit of everything for it that I think everybody can kind of appreciate. Like you're saying, American Storyteller. That's why it's called what it's called. It talks about, like I said, some life stories in there, some things you've experienced through, I guess, you know, heartache and triumph and things like that. And you mentioned how, you know, being in Hollywood for 40 years and still involved in it today, you've seen it all, done it all. So you can kind of say this through music. And I mean, COVID helped. I would say, I would say helped, but I mean, it allowed people to going through that time period didn't help anybody, I guess, but for people to grab other hobbies or pick up, like you said, pick up a
Well,
guitar,
it
things like
helps
that. It's
some
yeah,
self-reflection and
yeah,
taking self-inventory and investing a minute in ourselves, which we don't do as a
hmm
society. All we want is make sure our cable bill and our phone bills are paid. The rest is a hustle. When you're able to shut down and make that change, it's an important thing. And I just wanted to recognize it because it really did. It changed my life. And
hmm
I was one of the people that would, you know, had said for many years, oh, music, you know, I always wanted to, but I never did because I'd never felt like I, I, I felt like it was too late. I felt like I missed the boat, but it's been the greatest thing that I ever did. And I'm so happy for it. And, you know, once you stop trying to please everybody else and you start trying to please yourself, your life gets a hell of a lot better.
All right, that's a great way to say it, no doubt. Hey, I'm gonna turn it over. Let's bring the boys in and let's have y'all play a little something for us here on the show.
Okay.
Like I said, definitely gonna bring them in. And what's up first?
Well, so you know, as we were going around performing, there's a bit of a challenge when you're an actor. Let's be honest, and even I'm guilty of this. Nobody really embraces that actor turned singer moment when it's discovered, whether it's on a billboard or it's on a record or it's on an ad in a paper. You know, our first reaction is like, oh Lord, you know, not again, right? Not another one. But if we can go beyond that, and we do want to see one of these actors perform, the last thing we want to run into is an actor that doesn't want to talk about his acting career. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
The whole point of it is to talk about your acting career. When I come there and sit down, I don't want to listen to stories about your expensive guitar and your mediocre guitar play. I don't give a rat's ass. I want to know about what it was like working with so-and-so. So we decided to just break the ice. And when I first started, we wrote this song. And it's a song called Hell of a Life. And it's a song about different portions and highlights of my career. And we decided we'd open with it and just let people know we're not afraid to just, you know, hash it out and talk about Hollywood and invite everybody to recognize maybe aspects of the song that they might recognize and ask questions about the parts that they don't understand. And, you know, we're basically a 7-piece band and there's 3 of us here right now. So we're going to do our best, but these boys are awesome. And I think you guys will like it and you'll get the gist. So this is called Hell of a Life and it goes like this, boys.
Here we go.
There it is. We'll find her, man. Here we go. Help save an alien when I was just 13. Shot down a helicopter, yelling Wolverines. Recited Robert Frost, staring at the sun. Held my ground at the devil's den with an empty gun. Smoked marijuana with Cheech and Chong. Survived a plane crash in the Amazon. And Margaret made love to me on a tiger's tail. Spent a lifetime in prison hoping to make bail. Hell of a life, the one that I'm living. I gotta keep moving on, doing the best that I can. Do a little less hurting and a little more forgiving. 'Cause son, it's the kind of life that makes a man. Spent 2 years with my buddy Swayze. Even taught him how to rope and how to ride. You might have missed that one we did with Jamie Lee Curtis. But it had some lovely benefits on the side. Play the killer on TV called the Reaper. That a lot of folks have come to love to hate. Looking back, if I had to pick me out a favorite, it'd be that little greaser from 68. Hell of a life, the one that I'm living. I gotta keep moving on, doing the best that I can. Do a little less hurting and a little more forgiving. 'Cause son, that's the kind of life that makes a man. Pop me some dinosaurs in the land that time forgot. Went back to the future before Michael J. Fox. was $1 million. Way before I turned 21. Well, spent every dime at least a dozen times. But I won't ever be accused of never having fun. Now the wife is gone, kids are grown, and I'm on my own. Starting over, trying to write and sing. Looking back, if I had to live my life all over again, I swear I wouldn't change a goddamn thing. Hell of a life, the one that we're living. We gotta keep moving on, doing the best that we can. Do a little less hurting and a little more forgiving. Cause that's the kind of life that makes a man. I said, son, that's the kind of life that makes a man.
Gotta love it, boy. I tell you, that's just music, whatever you want to call it, country, Americana, good stuff right there from Tommy Howell. It's called Hell of a Life off the new record, American Storyteller, out there across all the digital platforms. And I tell you what, before I take a little commercial break here and we get to talking about some more music, some more acting, and just having a good time here, I got to ask you about the song, Tommy, that led off that record, Whiskey Demon.
Yeah.
Tell us all about that one.
That was a song that, you know, it's funny. That's a song that I think really reflects who we are as a band, first of all. There's some real depth to that song. And depending on the mood, the first time you hear that song, depending on your mood and the space you're in, you'll either hear it as sort of a frolicking, kind of a fun-loving bar tune with a real good hook. And if you're alone and you're probably going through some stuff in life and you hear that song, you'll probably see a little darker side to it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about the song. Originally, it became an exercise in trying to bury as many brand name whiskey titles into the song without it sort of being too noticeable, if you will. And as songs do, they become a part of yourself, you know. And I come from a family that struggled with addiction, and like I said, cowboys are drinkers, and my father's been sober for a real long time, but you know, I've been surrounded by cousins and a lot of people that have had a lot of problems with different addictions, whether it be alcohol or drugs or gambling or whatever. I still, you know, enjoy a spirit every now and then. So I think everything in moderation is cool, but Whiskey Demon really is a reflection on ourselves as a society, I would say. And it embraces both the good and the bad that comes with the bottle, if you will.
No doubt, too. Well, I tell you what, I tell people, go check it out. American Storyteller across all the digital platforms, and also TommyHowellMusic.com for more information there. We got to take a quick time out. I love the conversation. I got to please the sponsors here, of course. They're paying for the airtime and the CRS stuff. Again, CRS March 13 to 15. Omni Hotel will be there broadcasting live. And I know we're going to have our good friend T. Graham Brown and a whole lot more come by. T.G. Shepard, Kelly Lang, Buddy Jewell, spinning it with the big stars out there in Nashville, Tennessee. March 13 to 15. We'll pay some bills, come back. We'll talk more with Tommy, more about American Storyteller, and a whole lot more here on the Backstage Pass. Hang tight, coming back.
The Bangtail Pour is comprised of a sweet corn mash base. The front has a subtle sweetness and not too sharp. It has notes of a medium char or white oak for a smoky flavor in the middle, and the tail has a super smooth and warm finish.
Go behind the scenes with some of the biggest artists in music today with the Backstage Pass, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. Join Brandon Morrill and his co-host Kirsty Krause as they talk to rising stars and legends about their music careers. Listen to their latest tracks and learn fun facts about the men and women behind the music you love. And be sure to tune into the Backstage Pass Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. And welcome into the Backstage Pass. our friends over at Gentle Ben Spirits, gentleben.com, the vodka, the gin, the bourbon we love to drink here on the show. And of course, our friends at Bangtail Whiskey in Honky Tonk, Texas. Their presenting sponsor, CRS 2023, will be there March 13 to 15 at the Omni Hotel in Nashville, Tennessee. Tommy Howell back here on the program talking a lot about American Storyteller, which is his a new album out there across all the digital platforms. Make sure you guys go check it out. We're going to talk about a lot of the songs on here and, of course, a whole lot more here. Hey, you mentioned Swayze in that song. I love that one, too, which was fantastic, talking about Hell of a Life. If you missed it, you guys can go back and catch the replay. He sang it today for us here on the show. I love the fact, the co-star and the Outsiders, and, of course, you guys reunited for a Grandview USA and also Red Dawn.
That's right.
Tell me about just the reuniting, getting back together after the success The Outsiders was, and just the memories of that for those two projects.
Well, Patrick and I had our history goes back even before. So my father was a stunt coordinator on a film called Urban Cowboy, and that was in 78. And the dance choreographer on that same project was Patsy Swayze, Patrick's mom. So I ran around the set, and my father used me a little bit to sort of help teach. Like I said, my father was a professional bull rider, and I was planning on doing the same thing. So the mechanical bull was the reason my father was the stunt coordinator on this film. And we had one at home, and that was like, most kids were playing Pong. I was riding a mechanical bull all day. So that was easy as pie. And when they saw this little kid riding it, it kind of eased everybody into being able to get on it. And that's why I was there. Well, I met Patrick, I guess I was probably 11 years old, and he was there working and was stepping in for Travolta and working with Deborah Winger and teaching her how to do the two-step. And when they were down, he was spending time with me and taking care of me. We had no idea at the time, it would be a couple years and we'd start our own, 3-film, and we'd embark on a 3-film journey together. That was just, happenstance. But I look back on it all the time, and we were such good friends. He wanted to be a cowboy so bad. I'll give you a quick story. We were doing Red Dawn, and we got these horses, and the stunt coordinator on the film was a guy named Terry Leonard, and I had team roped quite a bit with Terry, and he brought his horses out there, and I used to go and rope on the weekends with Terry and have a good time. And Patrick would come once in a while, and he would watch, and boy, he really wanted to be a cowboy, to the point where he went and bought the horse that he was riding in the film. And
I love it.
Between, us and the rest of the listeners and all the planet, that horse wasn't really worth the money that he paid for him. And he was just excited to be a horseman, right? So, long story short, we're shooting the end, and it's my death scene. And it's a scene where I swing up on that horse, and I'm running from those cobras or whatever the hell they are, and they come around the corner of the helicopters, and they open fire. I put the mask up and yell Wolverines and blast them, right? So the first take, I go up, and it's just me. The rest of the guys and Patrick Swayze and everybody's over by the camera. And they're getting ready to send this helicopter around the bend, and I'm getting ready to swing up on this horse, and they yell action, and off I go. I jump up on this horse, and I pull the mask up and get out my RPG, and helicopter comes around the corner. My horse rears up, his paw in the air. I just rip an RPG and ride off, and I'm being chased around the canyon, around the corner by this helicopter. Director yells, "Cut," John Milius. And everybody's going, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And Patrick, he's looking a little irritated. And he calls me over, and he's like, how'd you get your horse to rear up like that? And I said, well, you have to talk to the wranglers, because, I told them I wanted my horse to rear up right in that moment when I shoot that RPG off, and I want to look like $1,000,000, like the Lone Ranger right there. So they put the rare on my horse for me. He goes, He turns around and yells at the wranglers, "Hey, I want the rare put on my horse. I want the rare put on my horse." Well, all that's BS, right? I never done anything. That horse saw that helicopter. He was so scared, reared up. I was so scared, accidentally let the RPG fire off into the air. He ran off. I held on for dear life and went around the corner and came back when they yelled cut, acted like I meant every bit of it. And they thought I was a hero. And I went and told Swayze we'd planned it for months. So that's just how we rolled on that set, you know?
I love it, man. They also loved the film. And of course, I'm a history teacher by day because I love teaching United States history. Anybody that remembers history remembers the Battle at Gettysburg, 1993.
Generals, right?
My God, tell us all about Gettysburg, the role, the success of the film, and also a great cast of actors in that one.
A great experience for me. It made me a fan of Civil War. You know, I've watched every Ken Burns, every, documentary on TV, and, read some books by Shelby and a bunch of other great authors. And a couple of things. Personally, I developed a relationship with Jeff Daniels on that film, who played my older brother.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught me a lot. He was one of the, and to this day, one of the finest actors that I've worked with. But he taught me a lot about self-respect and dignity. And he taught me a lot about doing the work. And his character had multiple monologues that went on for pages. Well, Jeff comes from the theater, so that wasn't really a challenge for him. But, a lot of California actors like myself, I didn't grow up studying Shakespeare. I thought I was going to be a stuntman. And so that shit's a little challenging for someone. But I'll never forget, they shot for 6 months. That was the plan. And the first 3 months, they were going to shoot the Confederates. Actually, it was like the first 2.5 months, they were going to shoot the Confederates. Then they were going to shoot us both for a month together. And then another 2.5 months for just the Yanks. And when we got there, they'd sort of blown their wad. They'd spent a lot more money than they anticipated. And they were starting to want to cut back. And I remember they called a meeting, and the producers all rallied around. And I don't know why they would do this. This day, it's never happened again, and it should never happen again. But the producers called a meeting with the actors. And it was me and Jeff, and it was Kevin Conley and a couple of other people. And they wanted to let us know, look, there's going to be some changes. We kind of went overboard on the budget, and we're going to make some cuts. And we just, wanted to give you the professional courtesy. Well, this was inside of Daniel's dressing room. And it was the same day he had to deliver a 3-page monologue to a group of deserters that he needed to convince to stay and fight. It was one of those moments where the cameraman, Doug Case, planted about 9 cameras because they wanted to do it right at that peak last drop of golden hour. And they were going to give Jeff, a take, maybe 2 to do it. And of course, they deliver the news to us. We're in the trailer, and Daniels is ready to rip this dressing room apart. He's seething, and he's saying things like, I've turned down extremely important roles to play this part. How dare you come in here and tell us you're going to cut the work that we don't get the opportunity to do? They knock on the door. They don't know what's going on in there. The sun's going down. We need you now, Jeff. We all hustle out. They yell action. There's probably 300 people there. crew, cast,
Mm-hmm.
and all of the reenactors who were gathered around. And Daniels does one take of the most epic speech where he doesn't wobble and he crushes this monologue. I'll never forget it. Gets a standing O from every single person watching, just cheering and standing O. He turns and he walks by all the producers and he says, "Cut that, mother effers," and walk away. So for me, that was probably the second most important moment on those two projects, Gods and Generals included, because I was on the set when we were actually shooting on 911.
Mm-hmm.
We were filming, and I was at base camp, and I'll never forget, we had the television on, and I watched the first hit. I watched the first plane hit the building, and it was just kind of on fire.
Mm-hmm.
I ran out. My father was working on the film. My father was a stunt coordinator on both those films, by the way. And he jumped out over with me, and we were watching with a group of people. We had a big TV at base camp on one of the trailers on the outside, like you do. And we were all gathered around, and we watched the second tower hit, and we stood in amazement and watched both towers collapse as instantly everything on the whole planet fell silent. There was no traffic, there was no plane, there was no air traffic. And my father put his arm around me in that moment. He said, "Our lives have changed forever." And boy, those words haunt me to this day. Was he ever right? But what I recall and what affects me the most, other than sharing that moment with my father, was an Irish gentleman who was there, and he looked like he'd just seen a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned to us and he says, "Oh my God." He said, "My father," in a very thick Irish brogue accent, "my father worked Tower 2. And he ran over like sobbing in the woods, and we were just dumbfounded. Everybody didn't know what to do at that moment. If you recall, it was a moment that we all froze. We all felt hopeless. There was nothing we can do. But strangely, it wasn't long. This young man came back as calm as can be, and he said, "My father's okay." And he hadn't spoken to him. He tried calling him. Of course, nobody could do anything at that time. He said, "My father's okay. I know he is." We all went home, and we assembled the next day, and we were working towards trying to figure out as a whole what to do.
Mm-hmm.
We, of course, shut down filming, but they still called us in because there were people whose families and lives had been affected, including this gentleman who we witnessed have a meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
While we were there that day, a car comes speeding up out of nowhere, and a gentleman steps out, covered from head to toe in soot. This boy screams, "Father," and the two of them hug, and he escaped, and he was covered from head to toe in gray soot, and all he did was get in his car and drive to go see his boy where we were filming. One of the most moving moments, one of the most moving things I've ever seen in my life.
Unbelievable. Great stories, no doubt, too. Again, the album American Storytellers out there from Tommy Howell across all the digital platforms, and check him out at TommyHowellMusic.com. Hey, you got one more for us? Want to bring the boys in?
Yeah, if you got time for us.
I got time. Let's do it.
All right. Well, real quick, this is a song called Ride. And this is a song, I told you, my father was a stunt man and a bull rider and sort of a larger-than-life character. And he got COVID Christmas before last. excuse me. And I started thinking about what it would, what he meant to me. And my father's always been this larger than life character, kind of a Jesse James or a, Doc Holliday type figure for me. I mean, a bull rider and a guy who was a stump man. It's like having, Larry Mahan and Evel Knievel be your daddy. It's just, how do you beat it? So when he got sick, we just all thought, well, he's going to kick COVID's butt. And we didn't really anticipate there being an issue. And of course, we had, like everybody, we were hit hard, and we had a few days where we didn't know what was going to happen. And I sat down and started thinking what it would be like to lose my father, and what it would be like to have a father that was a gunfighter like Jesse James. When you were Jesse James Jr., Jesse James had 2 children. And and he was married. What the heck? What do you say to your daddy when he's going to work? Aim straight, Dad. I mean, it really started to affect me. And my father used to go to work and set himself on fire and jump out of buildings and wreck cars. And looking back at that, it seemed normal. But now, as an adult, it's so not a normal way to grow up, not knowing if your dad's going to come home after he goes to work or not. So it really made me, self-evaluate and reflect. And we came up with a song together called Ride. And it goes like this.
Here we go.
Daddy was an outlaw, rode from town to town, robbing banks and stagecoaches. He was the meanest man around. Rode a buckskin horse, carried a 45. 12 proven men were in his gang to help keep him alive. Daddy, ride, ride, ride. Didn't know him well, sure know what he did. Some even say he was quick as Holiday and meaner than Billy the Kid. Wanted a 13 state, murder the 1st degree. Said that he did it for my mama and my sister and for me. Daddy, ride, ride, ride. Well, there's 6 feet of earth waiting on us all. Nobody's ever beat the devil to the draw. What you do between now and then, that's the measure of a man. You can run, but you can't hide. Ride. Daddy was an outlaw, rode from town to town, robbing banks and stagecoaches till Bob Ford shot him down. Mama told me he died, I didn't even cry. I just looked up to the sky and said, ride, Daddy, ride. Daddy, ride, ride, ride. Come on. Well, there's 6 feet of earth devil to the drum. What you do between now and then, that's the measure of a man. You can run, but you can't hide. Right. You're too young not to survive. Right. Daddy was an outlaw, rode from town to town, robbing banks and stagecoaches. He was the meanest man around. Yeah. Good job, boys. Good job, Zach.
Tell you what, real music right there, boy. Told from the heart, no doubt about it, too. I'll tell you, Tommy, the album is authentic as it gets, man, with some great songs in there. Many of we talked about today. And, of course, I would love to meet you in person and shake your hand one day for just, like I said, life well traveled and still going and pursuing those dreams and just making music the way you want to and letting people turn it on and hear some great songs. And, hell, if we're down the road and I'm in Nashville here in a couple of weeks for the country radio seminar, maybe just bump into you. Never know when it comes down to all kind of good stuff out there.
Thank you all, and thank you to your listeners for giving us a moment here. And I know my boys, right? Zach,
Yeah.
Sleepy.
Oh, it's good stuff. I love it. American storytellers out there across all the digital platforms, and check him out at TommyHowellMusic.com, the one and only, the great Tommy Howell here on the program. I know tomorrow we'll be back with Carly Scott Collins, easy for me to say, Travis Denning this week, and also Texas country artist Aaron Watson coming up this week here on the Backstage Pass, and of course CRS, the countdown, March 13 to 15, presented by our friends over at Bangtail Whiskey, Gentle Ben Spirits, and of course Honky Tonk Texas. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow about 4 o'clock. Tommy, thanks so much. Thanks to the guys out there for a wonderful job done. And we'll see you guys tomorrow with Carly Scott Collins here on the Backstage Pass. Until then, take care.